First Light is the first James Bond game from IO Interactive. It's also the first James Bond game since 2012. I'm a huge James Bond fan, so naturally I was excited. But does it pass the fan test? The way I figure, the game has to pass on two fronts. Is it a good James Bond game, and is it a good James Bond story? The game part shouldn't be too hard to top. If you didn't already know, IO Interactive is the developer behind the Hitman series. They've been at it for almost 30 years. I'm not going to make this a comparison video between the two games, but it is worth mentioning because the DNA running through both of them is noticeably similar. The most notable is the use of crowds. I don't think any developer out there makes crowds like this. Every nightclub, every market, every fashion show, it really gives that vibe of a spy moving through the population undetected. At a macro level, this looks great. It's a shame that some of the stuff doesn't hold up as well under a microscope. I played through on base PS5. Performance mode over quality, so that could explain some of these textures. The frame rate was pretty solid, however. My first time through the game, I left all the default filters on. I usually don't because it makes games look, terrible, and this is no exception. It's subjective, I know, but these recordings of my second playthrough without all that crap, I think look a lot better, even with blemishes here and there. Plenty of characters still have that woolly willy effect when they have short hair though. It's forgiven though when you're in the heat of the moment, and there's plenty of fantastic visual moments. I do wish the cinematic moments got to flourish a bit more. We tend to hang closer to Bond's perspective. I mean, fair enough, this is a video game, but it's hard to get that grand scale of the films when you do that. That's why it feels so refreshing to get moments where the camera pulls out and we get to breathe in the scenery. This is some Bond-looking atmosphere. The musical intro nails it too. The song's great, but the visuals keep up that trend of the many later Bond movies. Little hints here and there and references to the story beats. Chess pieces from Slovakia, fireworks in Vietnam.
And twins! Parties that never end! Dogs that love cats! And twins!
At the risk of copyright, I won't go too deep on the music, but I found it to be pretty damn perfect. It's bombastic when it needs to be, and full of subtle little callbacks as well. Some of my favorite Bond music is that slower, walking around type of stuff. You get it usually during the environment puzzle locations. Many of the films do this as well, mixing the score and the Bond theme together, usually during travel montages or Bond doing something on the more subtle side. Weapons sound punchy and heavy as well.
You were warned.
Even the silenced ones have that exaggerated Hollywood snap to them. I don't usually think of sound design when I think IO, but it's obvious they took a big leap from Hitman. The gadgets are unique as well. I can close my eyes and know exactly which is which just by hearing them. It's a great feeling when the music kicks in and the action starts. Really nails that feeling of being in an action scene from a Bond film. That action is definitely the highlight of this game. It's the biggest improvement to the IO formula. Hitman was more focused on the use of environment, setting up targets silently. The shooting wasn't meant to be a focus, it's just a means to an end, nor was the hand-to-hand combat. First Light takes a Batman Arkham Games type approach, and I think it works really well. The punch, parry, dodge type of system is popular because it works. Mixing in grapples and gadgets helps set it apart. When combat fully clicks for you, it's so satisfying to clear a room. You can even flip back and forth between melee and gunplay. Ammo's really not something you should be looking for. It's more or less encouraged to fling your gun at someone's head when it's empty. Punch them and take their flare gun instead. That's probably the most satisfying part of combat. This is juxtaposed with the quiet stealth approach. Classic takedowns, lure enemies, shoot poison darts at them. But the total formula is this, generally speaking. You start with a Hitman-style environment. You do some eavesdropping or use gadgets to find an infiltration method. You enter a room where enemies usually aren't aware of you, and you choose how you want to handle the situation. 3 guys in a room might seem easy, but if you lose track of one, they might call for backup. The stealthy approach is viable, but it's clear this isn't supposed to be the exclusive path. The game breaks up encounters so you can contain a situation if things go from quiet to loud. Alternatively, you could just lie your way through it.
Evening. John Fisher, curator. Need to check damage done to the 10 Commandments of Chivalry. Apparently some yobs added a couple of crude ones of their own.
You know, like you're from G section.
Who are you? What do you want?
Klaus Hergersheimer, G-section.
Blending all 3 of these approaches is a lot of fun. You lie your way in, stealth your way through, and punch your way out. Mix and match how you want. It's clear that the intended gameplay method here is combined arms. You don't want to get too bogged down trying to perfectly stealth it. It's more fun to throw the mugs anyway. And honestly, it's on brand for things to go tits up when Bond is trying to be stealthy. Now, there isn't a whole lot to say on the driving. Car and boat chases are a part of the series, and they're all cinematic enough. Some feel like actual chases, but others are more effectively on rails. No boat chase, though, is truly complete without J.W. Pepper. Also, there's no Citroën chase either. And you know what, 0 out of 10. Nah, but in all seriousness, I can't go on much longer without talking about our new Bond.
Bond. James Bond.
Personally, I like Patrick Gibson's 007. Fans seem split on this take from the start. If you didn't know, James Bond's age is actually a part of his character. This is generally a refined, almost to the point of snobbery, gentleman spy.
I have no objections.
He looks like he knows what he's doing because he's done it a lot of times. He's a commander in the Royal Navy, and really on the back half of his career. 00s retire at 45, and Bond is generally mid to late 30s in the films. The actors tend to float around that age and older, usually, sometimes. So a Bond this young is definitely a new thing. Even his fellow 00 recruits are more experienced.
Cressida, Monroe, is top of the class. I task you with bringing him up to speed.
But sir...
He gets 2 weeks to pass basics.
I do appreciate the scar though. That's a book thing, and we're likely never to see it in the film versions. Leading actors are rarely covered up or disfigured, especially legacy characters like James Bond. But in a game, yeah, cut me, Mick. It also helps that he's not annoying.
Your profile wasn't kidding. You really are spectacularly annoying.
He gets absolutely humbled in training. It would have been really easy to make a younger version of the character really whiny and unlikable, but his natural charm ends up pulling through most everyone he meets.
Weird.
Bond, you didn't.
Didn't know what to do. I didn't want to be rude.
He's practical, he has a sense of right and wrong.
Risk your life on a 1,000,000 to 1 chance?
I couldn't do nothing.
Does he know what temperature to serve sake?
98.4 degrees Fahrenheit.
I don't know, I guess it doesn't really matter. We're far enough back in his life you could excuse him for not knowing most things.
Vodka martini. Shaken, not stirred.
What's the difference?
Besides, he knows what's important. Io said they wanted their Bond to be the same man just before that refinement, and I feel like they got it. He appreciates a good turn of phrase and pun, usually to the right amount of corniness.
Practically had your name on it.
Is that meant to be a jab?
It's fun to see Bond have fun. The Craig movies are mostly solid, but I feel like they've set the table wrong for younger or casual fans. Most of these movies are pretty fun, sometimes borderline fun-y.
What the hell is this, amateur night? Stop him, Harry.
Not everything has to be dark and depressing every second. Yeah, we need some emotional stakes to hang the story on, but a little levity goes a long way with a character like this. I know Io has a good dark sense of humor from the Hitman games, so I figured they'd do it justice. I guess on the spectrum of camp to depressing, they float around Goldeneye. Speaking of Goldeneye, We get a new M as well. I actually really like this M's perspective on things. She's similar to Dame Judi Dench in her portrayal in Goldeneye. They're both new to the job.
I've been heading MI6 for 14 months now.
And they're faced with new technology. The difference is the Dench version of M was almost ready to throw out the double O's for modern spy technology.
Because I think you're a sexist, misogynist dinosaur. A relic of the Cold War.
This is a common theme through the Craig versions as well.
I'll hazard I can do more damage on my laptop sitting in my pajamas before my first cup of Earl Grey than you can do in a year in the field.
The difference is, even with almost sci-fi levels of technology, this new M fully believes in the value of the 00 program, and that's why she brought it back.
You see, I strongly believe that there is still a need for such human flourishes as heart and intuition in modern spycraft. In fact, that's the very reason I'm bringing back the 00s.
She has a practical view of New Age intelligence and old-fashioned spycraft. You need both. It felt like this was the lesson learned over and over and over again in the Craig movies.
If all else fails, sometimes the old ways are the best.
So it's nice to see an M finally understand the value of all the tools she has available. I said M brought back the 00 program because it was previously shut down. A previous 00, Greenway, is the instructor of this new class. I like this character a lot, not just because he's Lenny James, but because he works so well in this story. He's a veteran spy, and he's not going to let James into the club just because M has a hunch he might be good at it.
You do realize that the people who put you in that chair in real life, they won't play fair.
He's going to make him earn it. His contempt for Bond is a little thick early on, but it does give their relationship room to grow during the story.
This insufferable and immature behavior I'm talking about, and this will not happen.
I don't even think we see him smile until shit hits the fan.
What do we use now? Harsh language?
Give it a shot.
This dude is totally in his element out here. Moneypenny's an interesting one. Her look and role has been altered since the Craig era, and we've kind of just settled there. She started as a secretary that James would flirt with when he stopped by the office. Eventually, she was rebooted to a field agent, then demoted to intelligence. She fits that role well in this story because she can be the voice on the radio, something not only common in spy movies, but video games as well.
I need you to trace a text.
What? I can't. I'm on a date.
She never feels forced into the story though, and that can be difficult with a supporting character like this.
Hello, Penny.
You'd better go right in. You're late as usual, even from your own funeral.
How does she have her own little office on a submarine? My favorite supporting character has to be the new Q though.
I already have a watch.
Oh, you do? May I see it? Now you get a new one.
Now don't get it twisted. There's only one Desmond Llewellyn.
Always have an escape plan.
The dude helped infiltrate an enemy base in a hot air balloon, for God's sake.
I trust you can handle this contraption, Q.
It goes by hot air.
Oh, then you can.
But this Q is an easy second for me. It's too bad John Cleese got the shaft by being in one of the worst Bond movies. He could have been pretty great. I like this Q though because it's back to inventions and fatherly advice.
Q? Help me out here, would you?
Relax, Bond. It's a bow tie, not C4.
Craig's Q should have been like the head of IT or intelligence or something. Q should be making ghetto blasters and other wacky shit.
Let's see.
Something we're making for the Americans. It's called a ghetto blaster.
This Q lab is very Brosnan era, and it's damn glorious. This is what I mean by fun.
What are you doing? Here, cut it out. We haven't time for that. Later, perhaps.
This is fine for the story they're telling.
A gun and a radio. Not exactly Christmas, is it?
Were you expecting an exploding pen? We don't really go in for that anymore.
But this is fun.
Slick.
Very funny.
You alright?
The lab and gadgets are an extension of the character.
You move the catches to the side. If you do, the cartridge will explode.
Explosive stuff.
I just wish we had gotten more car.
Right. But speaking of silver linings...
Nice try, but you won't need a car where you're going. Besides, she's not ready.
Well, that's fine, I guess, because neither is Bond. We first see him in a helicopter, riding along with SAS on an operation. It's worth noting he's a brand new air crewman. No Commander Bond here. Things go wrong and he finds himself the sole survivor and hunted down by terrorists. Bond does Bond things and rescues hostages, stops the bad guys, and makes it home in time for tea. This gets him noticed by MI6, specifically M, who I mentioned brought back the 00 program.
I would like you to join His Majesty's Secret Service. I want to make you a spy.
She crams him in, and everyone, probably rightly so, is pissed about it.
About me being here, you'll have to take that up with them.
Already tried. She insists we give you a chance.
Thus begins probably my favorite tutorial in a long time. Working it into a montage like this is actually pretty brilliant. Learn to fight, shoot, and drive. Learn about Bond and his fellow recruits. Pick out an Omega you could never afford in real life.
Rolex.
Amiga.
Beautiful.
Holy shit, they're expensive. Learn about this expensive looking thing too. Thea is the spy technology I mentioned earlier. It's not a replacement for spycraft, but it's considered almost invaluable.
Meet Thea, the world's first and only second-generation quantum computer.
I thought those things were theoretical at best.
That's what we want you to think. Thea synthesizes millions of data streams instantaneously to make statistical deductions on matters of national security.
It's kind of like if the precogs from Minority Report and ChatGPT had a baby. The 00 training is put on pause after Thea concludes that a former agent, 009, is attempting to take out Greenway, under the guise of handing over valuable information. Former because he's considered a traitor to the crown, after he was allegedly involved in a spy ring within the department. Former 00 causing a ruckus, more Goldeneye connections. It's all going down at a chess match in Slovakia. Bond gets to be the transportation specialist.
I'm the chauffeur.
Well, don't look at me, I just work here.
Yeah, he got the shaft on that one. But because he's the main character, he notices something suspicious, and our story is finally off to the races.
Not exactly the 5-star treatment.
This is a good introduction to the gameplay, as well as the setup for the story going forward. There's more than meets the eye here, and it appears that 009 set the whole thing up as an assassination attempt.
009? Of course, it was a bloody suicide mission. He used himself as bait to get to me, and there! That's him!
We get our car chase, we get a shootout, we get a set piece, and most importantly, we get our character's emotional hook. Bond feels like he failed. This immediately becomes personal to him. It's a common trend in Bond stories. Usually his weakness is women, but it's not the first time we've seen him lose friends. The only two able bodies left are Bond and Greenway. But they hate each other, oh no!
Happy to help.
They track 009 to Lenny Kravitz's house in a ship graveyard. Side note, why did everyone freak out that Lenny Kravitz was in this game? People immediately seemed to think he was like the main villain and not just a celebrity cameo. You remember when Madonna was in Die Another Day? She's on screen for like 5 minutes tops. Can you imagine the ridiculous fan theories if social media was what it is now back then? People would have lost their shit. Anyway, we're early in the story, but I really can't talk much more without hitting spoilers. If you can't tell though, I'm really high on this game and I think it's worth it, especially if you're a fan, casual or hardcore. Seriously though, I'm gonna talk about twists and stuff, so go play the game if you don't want spoilers. You won't be disappointed.
Hello there. Look, I'm just testing this highly explosive top-secret Tomorrow Never Dies video game for PlayStation. The game starts where Tomorrow Never Dies ends and challenges you to think, act and behave, well, possibly not behave, like James Bond.
So we discover that 009 has been tortured and killed, seemingly at the hands of his own men. It's later revealed that this is the work of the same people who set off the bomb in Slovakia. 009 was actually trying to get in contact with Greenway. He had information on a conspiracy and setup, but was almost taken down in Slovakia before they finally got him on his houseboat. These same people are now after Greenway and Bond. Simply knowing that 009 may have been innocent is enough to eliminate them. Ultimately, this is all tied to Thea. It turns out, Thea makes mistakes.
Thea makes mistakes? Thea makes mistakes?
These mistakes have massive ramifications, often leading intelligence agencies to make decisions based on bad or outright false intelligence.
I never betrayed anyone. You couldn't have known. Greenway.
The father of Thea, Sir Nicholas Webb, is a famous tech genius and classic Bond villain. He sets his psycho son, Damien, to do whatever it takes to alter situations to essentially make Thea correct.
So it looks like every time Thea gets her wires crossed, he dispatches Damien to fix the narrative, to alter crime scenes, plant evidence, frame or eliminate witnesses.
I like this premise. It's kind of a blend of previous Bond stories. You have this advanced technology, similar to Spectre, being used to heavily assist MI6.
This merger's going to be a whole new chapter for us. We're going to bring British intelligence out of the Dark Ages into the light.
Then you have a villain, kind of like Elliot Carver in Tomorrow Never Dies.
Hold the presses.
Rich guy controlling the narrative to get the future that he wants. Instead of controlling the media, however, Webb is effectively controlling MI6, guiding them wherever they need to be to cover for Thea.
Just like you and I, Thea learns by doing. To become perfect, it must be used. But MI6 would never have let me use it.
Unless it already was perfect.
You see my predicament?
He's even got a great villain lair. All in all, some pretty solid Bond stuff here. Where things get a little muddy is the sub-villains, if you will. Damien, who I mentioned before, and the twin assassins who first appear in Slovakia. Having sort of muscle villains in addition to the main villain is nothing new to the series. The twins reminded me kind of like Grant in From Russia with Love. Damien is kind of a mixed bag, however. He fills that role of muscle in multiple boss fights, but he's also like a secondary villain.
I'd be careful with this one, James. Dare I say, out of your league.
Your attention, please.
Hold this, Danny.
He's the one who captures Bond twice. He does the Goldfinger strap down about to lose your crotch deal. He kind of reminds me of Graves from Die Another Day with this dumb combat suit thing.
How do you like the new look?
You grew a spine. Well done.
I think this character really only works in a video game. Not because he's used for action set-piece fights, but because there wouldn't be any room for this many bad guys in a movie. Hell, almost the entire last chapter felt like a video game add-on to a Bond movie. The Bond movie version of this story would probably wrap things up here, right after Bond corners Isola, and they both end up in cells. Maybe she gets away on her own, or people break her out. I don't know. My point is, all of this stuff at the end felt very video gamey. That's okay, because last I checked, this is in fact a video game. These load times are proof of that. But in a story that feels pretty tight and on brand, this final chapter kind of sticks out compared to everything else. Now whatever, let's talk Bond girls. I mentioned Isola late because she really comes into play in the second half of the story. She's introduced in the beginning as a French agent, only to find out that's not true. Then it turns out she's been working for Webb. Even Damien knows her. It's clear from the get-go that she's a wild card who probably shouldn't be trusted. We don't know her motivation until the very end. True to the character though, Bond gives her the benefit of the doubt pretty much every time.
No games, Isola. Do we have a deal?
Her character is familiar yet unique. She has kind of a Vesper streak, working with Bond while having ulterior motives, but we learn pretty early she's a fellow spy. It's a fun dynamic, spy-on-spy action. There's a whole movie built around that dynamic. It's one of Moore's best. The difference here is that Bond is clearly the inferior spy.
So what do I call you? I bet Isola isn't your real name either.
Please. It's not like yours is James Bond.
Fair enough, he's new and a bit naive. My one gripe about their relationship is he doesn't really learn any lessons from it.
I can get you into the perch.
Pass. Once bitten.
Moore got the girl in the end, cause, you know, he always does.
Swan, what do you think you're doing?
Keeping the British end up, sir.
And Craig, well...
Job's done. The bitch is dead.
For this Bond, it kinda just works out fine. She saves him at the end, but I never once felt like she wasn't going to. If you compare it to Spy Who Loved Me, there's not a lot of depth to their relationship. Anya was ready to kill Bond before she came around to Sir Roger's charm.
When this mission is over, I will kill you.
Who wouldn't? I never got the impression she was a danger to Bond. At most, just a rival. She's a lot more like Ada Wong from Resident Evil. I can only assume that lack of finality with her is to set her up for a return in a sequel.
Someone pulled me out of that water and made off with Thea. There's only one person it can be.
Bond girls that betray Bond
You'd miss me.
usually end up in the ground.
I never miss.
I don't have much to say about Miss Lorca here, however. Not in a bad way, it's just that she fits the classic damsel in distress role. That's kind of all she's meant to be, so it works fine. I guess my only gripe with her is that she looks a little too similar to Isola, especially with her face half hidden by a hat and sunglasses. I wouldn't blame anyone for thinking that they're the same character at first glance. Usually, you would have a different hair color or style to set the two apart. Redhead, Tiffany Case. Brunette, Plenty O'Toole.
Hi, I'm Plenty.
But of course you are.
Plenty O'Toole.
Shit, Lazenby was only in one movie and he got to try every flavor.
Just a slight stiffness coming on.
This Bond story is more than stiff, though. I'd call it rock solid. Does it pass my completely subjective, totally unofficial fan test? Yeah, I think it does. So, what now? Well, Taxim is pretty fun. That's where future content is going to be updated. I'm hoping for more story as well, but I guess we'll see what happens. As for the films, we'll have to wait even longer. We're in the Amazon era of Bond, and I'm cautiously excited to see what's next. What does a Bond movie look like when it's made by a company owned by like a real-life Bond villain? I'm sure that whatever happens, the internet will be completely reasonable and open-minded though, right? Wait. There's no hat on this coat rack. Are you kidding me? 0 out of 10.
Ow! You shot me, you a-hole!